تعلمون من هو معنى الصمود والتحدي. راح بيتي الأسر اخواتنا، راح بيوتنا صامدين، وحنعمرها وحنطمرها، وصامدين مهما طال الزمن، صامدين مهما طال الزمن.
ثبت جذورك في التراب فأنت باق ها هنا. الأرض أرضك يا فتى، هذه البلاد بلادنا. هم جهلة لا يعلمون بأن وطنك خالد، فاصمد ورابط واحتسب إنا وراءك كلنا. كم من شهيد قدموا أرواحهم من أجل تحقيق اليقين. يا صاحب الأرض اعتصم، فالأرض عرض المتقين.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
In today's top stories, the Foreign Minister, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, is participating in the work of the 46th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union, which kicked off today in Addis Ababa. The Army General Saeed Shingri has taken part in the Defence Ministers' meeting in India, discussing global security challenges and emphasising the need for joint efforts to create a safer and prosperous world. The US President's contested plan for the forced displacement of the inhabitants of Gaza continued to trigger various reactions and condemnations from many countries. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Sulmani. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received the Chairman of the Oman Investment Authority, Abdussalam bin Mohammed Al Murshidi, and the accompanying delegation. In a statement to the press at the headquarters of the Presidency of the Republic, following his meeting with the President of the Republic, the Chairman of the Oman Investment Authority said that preparations are underway for Omani operators to launch investment projects in Algeria in a number of sectors to be defined in the coming weeks and months.
We were honored to meet His Excellency the President of Algeria, who warmly welcomed cooperation between Oman and Algeria in various sectors. His Excellency is well informed on common files and has directed full support for joint projects. In the coming weeks and months, we hope to identify key projects starting with food security and pharmaceuticals.
That was the Chairman of the Oman Investment Authority, Abdussalam bin Mohammed Al Murshidi. The Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, is participating in the 46th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union, which kicked off today in Addis Ababa. Masoud Sharfi has the details.
During this session, which preceded the AU summit scheduled on February 15 and 16, 2025, African foreign ministers will debate issues related to the renewal of the components of the various bodies of the Continental Organization, including the AU Commission and the Peace and Security Council, as well as several matters concerning peace, security, and development in Africa. Attaf has held talks in Addis Ababa with the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Yusuf Tagar, on the eve of the meeting of the Executive Council of the African Union. On this occasion, the two parties exchanged views and analyses on developments in the region to which they both belong, and reviewed the efforts being made to boost projects with an integrative and complementary dimension in the region. The two ministers also examined the major files and issues on the agenda of the Executive Council. Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf has also held talks in Addis Ababa with the Tunisian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Migration and Tunisians Abroad, Mohamed Ali Nafti. The two ministers raised various issues that should be discussed at the meeting of the Executive Council of the African Union while addressing developments in the Palestinian cause.
President Abdelmajid Tebboune has received the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Minister of Petroleum of the Republic of Niger. The meeting took place in the presence of the Director of the Cabinet at the Presidency of the Republic, Boualem, the Minister of State in charge of Energy and Mines and Renewable Energies, Mohamed Erqab, and the Chairman and CEO of Sonatrach, Rashid Hashishi. Algeria, Nigeria, and Niger have signed agreements in Algiers to speed up the completion of the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, over 4,000 kilometers long, which will allow transporting Nigerian gas to Europe. The Trans-Saharan gas pipeline is expected to carry billions of cubic meters of Nigerian gas to Algeria via Niger. The gas could then be exported to the European Union via the Transmed pipeline, which links Algeria to Italy via Tunisia and in the form of liquefied natural gas transported by LNG tankers. The three countries have signed a contract to update the feasibility study, a compensation contract, and a non-disclosure agreement between their energy companies. In a joint statement to the press with the Minister of State, Minister of Energy, Mines and Renewable Energies, Mohamed Erqab, and the Oil Minister of Niger, Sahabi Umaru, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources of Nigeria, ECPO, has said that the conclusions of the fourth ministerial meeting of the Steering Committee for the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline argues well for the strategic continental project. After highlighting the vital nature of this continental energy infrastructure, which contributes to the development and diversification of the African economy, Mr. Ekpo congratulated Algeria and Niger for this new step taken in the process of achieving the joint project.
We came in and today the task force have met from the three countries. Of course, the origin of the line is from Nigeria, which passes through Niger into Algeria. The three countries, they have met the task force, came out with recommendations, which we have approved, which is an indication that the project is going to see the light of the day. So I congratulate the Algerians that this thing has come to a logical end at this point in time. I congratulate the Minister of Algeria and the Minister of Niger.
The Niger Minister of Petroleum, Sahabi Umaru, welcomed the conclusions of the tripartite meeting, underlining that Algeria, Niger and Nigeria have common interests, common destinies and a common future, and that the project is intended to be a truly integrated infrastructure.
Permettez-moi de féliciter.
I congratulate Algeria for the success of this important meeting that has brought out three countries together at the table. The Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline project is a project that embodies and concretizes African integration, and our meeting today is the beginning of the project implementation on the ground. It is a very important project aimed at strengthening cooperation among us to serve our peoples.
For his part, the Algerian Energy Minister Mohamed Erqab reaffirmed the strategic nature of the project for the whole of the African continent, with the potential to transport 20 to 30 billion meter cubic of gas a year from Nigeria via Niger to Algeria to international markets, notably Europe.
Therefore, we confirmed Algeria's commitment to implementing this project and providing all the necessary resources to meet the favorable conditions for its success. This is under the guidance of His Excellency President Abdelmajid Tebboune, who emphasized and affirmed Algeria's commitment to African cooperation in the economic field, highlighting that cooperation among African countries benefits the African nations.
That was Algerian Energy Minister Mohamed Erqab. Now, as you followed in our top stories, the Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense and Chief of Staff of the People's National Army, Army General Saeed Shingriha, has taken part in the Defense Ministers' meeting in India. Masoud Sharfi has the details.
On the occasion of this meeting, the Army General on the 7th day of his official visit to India delivered a speech at the beginning of which he thanked the Indian authorities for the kind invitation extended to him to take part in this high-level meeting. He said the meeting was a reflection of India's strong commitment to strengthening ties with its partners and a valuable opportunity for dialogue and exchanging views on global security.
This meeting, which addresses a topic of utmost importance, reflects India's true will to strengthen its relations with its friends and partners. It is also an opportunity for dialogue and exchange of views and forward-looking visions on issues relating to global security.
The Army General also discussed global security challenges and emphasized the need for joint efforts to create a safer and prosperous world.
I am convinced that the security challenges besetting the world today require us to strengthen multilateral cooperation and joint efforts to contribute to establishing the values of peace and sustainable development and to building a safer, more stable, and more prosperous world.
The Army General Shingriha met with the Chief of the Indian Defence Staff, Army General Anil Chauhan. The second meeting between the High Command of both countries demonstrates the mutual interest in strengthening bilateral relations and expanding areas of cooperation.
Now, Morocco, which was unable to conceal its immense grief following the recent visit to Syria by the Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, has made no efforts in hiding deep sorrow and launching desperate cries on social media and their various information or rather propaganda sites. This was contained in a report published by the Algerian news agency that also said that the worst thing is that the Kingdom of Morocco has become the victim of its own lies and has ended up believing its own fantasies and delusions. Just a few weeks ago, these same loudspeakers of fabrication were insinuating that soldiers from the Algerian army and the Polisario Front were fighting alongside the Bashar al-Assad's regime. It added that today they are referring to an imaginary request from the release of these soldiers, which was made by the Minister of State Ahmed Attaf during his meeting with the Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, and which the latter rejected. The meeting between Minister Ahmed Attaf and Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara was exceptional from every point of view, a far cry from the frivolous inventions that Morocco has repeated over and over again. The talks, as revealed by the heads of diplomacy of the two brotherly countries, focus above all on reaffirming Algeria's solidarity with and support for Syria at this crucial stage in its history, at a time when it is working tirelessly to rally all its people around a unifying and inclusive national project that will enable it to rebuild its national institutions and meet its aspirations for peace, security, development, and prosperity. The recovery and reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, devastated by more than 15 months of a Zionist aggression in the short, medium, and long term, will require more than $53 billion, of which $20 billion over the first 3 years, wrote UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in a report commissioned by the UN General Assembly. Said Bouazi tells us more.
In a resolution adopted in December calling for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire in Gaza, the UN General Assembly asked the UN Secretary General to provide it within 2 months with an assessment of Gaza's needs in the short, medium, and long term. The housing sector alone will require around 30% of reconstruction needs of $15.2 billion, according to the report. This is followed by trade and industry $6.9 billion, health $6.9 billion, agriculture $4.2 billion, social protection $4.2 billion, transport $2.9 billion, water and sanitation $2.7 billion, and education $2.6 billion. The report also notes the particularly high costs anticipated for environmental sectors, 1.9 billion, due to the large amount of rubble containing unexploded ordnance and the high cost associated with debris removal. The UN estimates that the Zionist aggression generated more than 50 million tons of debris, under which human remains lie alongside unexploded ordnance, asbestos, and other dangerous substances. Antonio Guterres also underlined that to be viable, recovery and reconstruction efforts must be firmly anchored in a political and security framework, with Gaza as an integral part of a fully independent, democratic, contiguous, viable and sovereign state. He added in his report that it is essential that the Palestinian state be a central player in the planning and implementation of rehabilitation and reconstruction activities in the Gaza Strip.
U.S. President's contested plan for the forced displacement of the inhabitants of Gaza continues to trigger various reactions from several countries. In this regard, Palestinian factions yesterday denounced the U.S. project as a declaration of war aimed at uprooting the Palestinian people from their homeland. The Palestinian factions declared that the recent statements made by President Donald Trump show the true face of the U.S. Zionist partner in aggression against the Palestinian people, stressing in this regard the need to block the way to any colonization project or displacement of Palestinians under any form or political or humanitarian cover. In turn, Chinese Foreign Minister spokesman stressed that his country is totally opposed to the Gaza Strip belonging to the Palestinians and forming an integral part of the Palestinian territory. In the same context of reactions to Donald Trump's proposal to take control of Gaza, North Korea has described these statements as an act of forced expulsion of the Gaza population. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, for his part, stated that the creation of a sovereign Palestinian state with the unity of its territory and the Quds as its capital could not be delayed any further. Now, in the occupied Palestinian West Bank, the Zionist occupying forces are continuing their savage aggression against the town of Jenin and its camp for the 23rd consecutive day, resulting in 25 martyrs and dozens injured. More on the situation in Jenin and its camp with Said Bougazi.
At least 6 Palestinians were injured yesterday evening after being beaten by occupation forces in Jenin, Wafa said, pointing out that Palestinian Red Crescent teams attended to them at a checkpoint in Jalaleh, east of the city, and transferred them to the hospital for treatment. The occupying forces also shelled the home of the family of martyr Nidal El-Amr in the Jenin camp. The Zionist army had given the family a demolition notice for this 2-story house. Zionist army bulldozers have also ravaged the streets and property of Palestinians in the eastern quarter of Jenin and destroyed Palestinian vehicles and some houses. The mayor of Jenin reported 104 Zionist incursions over the past 3 years, pointing out that these repeated incursions causing damage to infrastructure, buildings and shops have led to economic losses amounting to $2 billion. For the 23rd consecutive day, the occupying forces continue to demolish and set fire to several houses inside the Jenin camp, which is also overflown by drones. The Zionist occupation army notably destroyed the road leading to the Jenin purification station, while continuing to send military reinforcements accompanied by bulldozers towards the town and its camp.
Now, the Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary-General, Resident Coordinator and Humanitarian Coordinator for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Mr. Bruno Le Marquis, has warned at a press conference about the volatile humanitarian situation in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
The security and humanitarian situation in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo remain extremely volatile, with escalating armed clashes, mass displacement, and increasing insecurity in both North Kivu and South Kivu. The activities of armed groups, in particular the M23, along with the regional dynamics, continue to fuel instability, exacerbating civilian suffering and humanitarian challenges. But there are more than the M23 in the DRC, and for example, this morning we learned that at least 52 civilians were killed, reportedly killed in Ituri by the armed group called the Codeco.
That was the resident coordinator and humanitarian coordinator for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Mr. Bruno Le Marquis. Radio Algeria International has organized, under the supervision of the Director General of Radio of the Algerian Radio, Adel Slagji, a special seminar entitled Radio is a Faithful Witness to Crimes That Never Die, on the occasion of the World Radio Day and the 65th anniversary of the nuclear explosions in the Algerian desert, scheduled to be celebrated tomorrow. The seminar, held at the Cultural Auditorium at Saudi, was attended by experts and specialists in the field who stressed that these nuclear explosions are a stain or a stain on the forehead of colonial France and a heinous crime that does not fall under the statute of limitations. The president of the National Society of Nuclear Medicine, Dr. Imaduddin Ghotban, highlighted the scientific and health dimensions of the French nuclear explosions in the Algerian desert due to the danger of nuclear radiation in the long term.
The colonialist nuclear bombardment in the Algerian Sahara have various dimensions: historical, political, humanitarian, and environmental. Also, scientific and health dimensions, considered one of the most important fields that must be supervised because of the danger of nuclear radiation on human health in the long term, due to the nature of the materials resulting from explosions such as plutonium that has a lifespan of about 24,400 years, which means thousands of generations would be affected, besides the vast areas that were destined for this bombardment from Rigan to Tamanrasset.
That was the president of the National Society of Nuclear Medicine, Dr. Imaduddin Ghotban. This is Radio Algeria International. We're coming live to you from the capital, Algiers. Thank you so much for listening.